topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Good afternoon, Illinois. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. We have got a great show for you for the next 50 minutes. We're going to be talking about tax relief and a little bit of bankruptcy law. We have one of the top attorneys in the state of Illinois with attorney Kevin Benjamin. Kevin's been with us well over a year now. And I was just telling Kevin, we got so many of your texts and emails having questions about tax relief. So today's show, though we usually like to split it up, I've got so many questions for Kevin here that most of the show today is going to be on tax relief. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you. How you doing?
We're doing good. Tell people about your firm.
Okay, well, I'm Kevin Benjamin. My firm is Benjamin Legal Services. I also have a tax resolution firm called Noble Tax Relief. And basically, Benjamin Legal Services represents businesses and individuals in bankruptcy, Chapter 7, 11, 13, foreclosure-related matters, loan workout and restructurings, tax resolution, litigation, things of that nature. Noble Tax Relief is strictly tax resolution. It's me handling the case either way. But some people just have a tax issue, and we have the Noble Tax Relief company for that. But also the law firm handles that. We represent people in civil and criminal with the IRS, and some of them are in federal court too. So sometimes it's the law firm, representing somebody. Otherwise, sometimes the more simpler resolutions are just, not with court, not with the criminal division of the IRS, and just working out resolutions for people. So that's what we do.
Hey, Kevin, we had several people ask us if they get audited by the IRS. Do you assist them with that?
Yes. I mean, to be a simple answer, yes. And now, of course, everyone's situation is different, so we have to prepare for the audit, and there's work to be done. And I may or may not, probably not have the client come with, so I would need to get prepped and get on top of things. It's work to be done, but yes.
Well, one of the things I've learned from you, Kevin, is if you talk to the IRS yourself, you could dig yourself a deeper hole. So I guess it's the same thing with an audit.
Oh yeah. I don't want you there unless I have a reason to have you there. Sometimes I find I was having a conversation with my father today. He was a CPA this morning, talking about his clients, my clients, how people are, and human nature. People want to talk. I'm an attorney. I represent people. When I'm representing them, I don't know why they're saying anything. If I'm in a meeting or even in a deposition, asked and answered or whatever, you got to be careful what you're saying, because you don't want to just come off the cuff. It's interesting. It's just human nature. Like the police, not talking about tax resolution, the police and people who would examine you, ask you questions. They're trained to get you in a room, the good cop, bad cop, make you feel at ease, just get you talking, open-ended questions, and then they just listen. What kind of information can they pull out of you? That kind of stuff. And a lot of people, they just want to, I'm going to talk, I'm smart, going to talk my way out of this. And you're just burying yourself. I had a case years ago, criminal, different jurisdiction. The whole case was the person, they knocked on his door, asked to talk to him, did an interview. Why did he do that? We did. The whole case was on that. He was indicted. They just get you talking. So yeah, you don't want to get an audit. People think it's they ask you a question and you feel pressure to explain. Well, maybe they're only asking you a certain question. Just answer the question. Like if I was, someone's doing a deposition of my client, I'm going to answer the question. I may object to something, but this is not a friendly banter thing, right? The IRS is not your friend. The auditor is not your friend, and cooperate, but it's business. Ask and answer. If they ask a yes/no question, it's yes or no. Don't just ramble on. People think when there's silence, I better keep talking. That's just human nature on anything. But they're trained. People are trained to get you to talk and to say something. So no, you don't want to do it yourself.
Kevin, I got to tell you, I'm looking at the letters. Gosh, they're from all over Illinois. I'm going to just say this up front. Most of them start out saying how much they enjoy, how much they love, how much they appreciate your show. So I'm not going to bore everybody because almost every one of them start off that way. So we're going to start off with Greg in Chicago. He said, I just found your show in December and I was looking forward to watching more of your shows. Will you handle all the communications with the IRS and the Department of Revenue?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, when you retain me or a professional to represent you, you fill out, there's a power of attorney. There's also another authorization, which is strictly authorization to talk to the IRS, but not to represent. But the full power of attorney, like for the IRS form 2848, you put certain information on there, okay? What tax years, what's your ability to do. For example, on my power of attorney, I'm not signing tax return, different questions, right? And then also how I'm authorized. But on top of that, they asked a question about notices. Yeah, I'll allow them to send you copies of what they're sending me. Absolutely, right? But I want the notices because I'm doing the representation. As a matter of fact, when you fill out the power of attorney, where it asks for your email address, I give them mine and I say power of attorney. So they know what it is. In other words, I don't want them emailing you something. Communications go to me. I represent you. But they can I authorize copies to go to you for sure. Yeah.
Kevin, most of these questions are for individuals, but I want to throw in, these are all things I've learned from you. So if you're dealing with the IRS, wait till you try to get a hold of them. I've probably got about 2 or 3 emails from people saying they were on hold for an hour, 2 hours. So if you retain Attorney Benjamin, he's the one who's going to be doing that. You won't have to. I mean, you got a business to run. You don't want to sit on the phone all day, right, Kevin?
Well, that's funny you mentioned that because, as you may have noticed, I got on the podcast within like 30 seconds of when it was starting because I was on hold with the IRS, and then I had a quick call with a tax client, giving her a quick summary of what was going on before I had to tell her, okay, I got to get on this podcast right now and do that. So what happens is there's different parts of the IRS. So you may be in the ACS, which is the Automated Collection Systems. You may have been assigned to a revenue agent or a revenue officer, or there's special collection divisions. So depending on where you are, like a revenue officer would have a direct line. It's easier for me to, they don't always answer the phone, but I'm not on hold for hours. ACS, yes. Or if I'm trying to find out what the IRS, has my client been assigned somewhere, who am I dealing with, who am I submitting the resolution to? Because sometimes the client doesn't always know. Yeah, it's being on hold. As a matter of fact, this particular client, this past week, I was just explaining, had an update call a couple of days ago, and I told him, I said, I'm trying to get the I was on the phone. I've been on hold for a lot, and I'll try them again the next day. They understood that because they've been there before. So, the ACS part is good to be in. It's just, doesn't mean, because you're not really down the road with anybody. But when you are with a revenue officer or agents, it's easier for me to communicate. The ACS, if you call that number and I'm trying to resolve something, it could be hold times. Then you get somebody and they know what they're doing or they don't. And that's it, And then sometimes they disconnect by accident, not an accident. Or sometimes I have to terminate the call. I've been waiting, but now I know this person doesn't know what they're talking about because they probably just hired, yesterday, whatever. And you call back and you just get someone else and you get a different answer. But then I got to call back and get somebody else. So there's pros and cons of both.
Hey, Kevin, do you ever find that you actually know a lot more than the agent does?
What?
You being an attorney, do you ever find where you know the laws better than the agent does, the IRS agent?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Not always, but yeah. I mean, a lot of them, they're, and they fired a lot of people trying to use more AI. You know what I'm saying? So,
yes.
A lot of people they were hiring before. Yes, that helps with the hold time, right? But you're not accomplishing anything, because no one's trained or they don't know what to do. Because it's basically the Internal Revenue Manual and the code. Just like when I do bankruptcy, it's the bankruptcy code, the bankruptcy rules. It's all structured. There's no magic, hey, Kevin's the best or Joe's the best. You call the IRS and say, hey, what's going on? It's not how it works. Someone just hired me last week, and I think he's emailed me 3 times. Hey, what's the status? If I talk, like, you kidding me? Are you going to email me every day? I said, they don't work that quick. Got to get the information to them. Before I give them information, you give me information, right? So I can analyze your case. What are your option or options, the pros and cons of each, and go from there. And that's for tax resolution. I'm also an attorney, though. So sometimes taxes are dischargeable, sometimes they're not. But that's a backup plan, you know what I'm saying? Or unless someone says, $500,000 and get rid of $450 of it, then they say, hey, let's do that. But, my job is, what's your option? Now, other tax professionals who aren't lawyers couldn't do that. And other ones who are lawyers couldn't do that unless they were bankruptcy lawyers. Because a lot of them don't even understand when taxes can be discharged. Everyone thinks, if it's 3 years old, it's dischargeable. That's not automatically true. That's just one prong, right? And there's also always exceptions to different rules. So we got to analyze the entire thing. So when someone comes in, hey, I owe $200,000. Okay, I get it, right? But I ask, what year or years? Maybe it's 1 year. Maybe it's over 7 years. Because I got to analyze, 17,500 this year, 20,000. What each year is the CSED, collection statute expiration date, the ASED, the assessment expiration date, right? And bankruptcy dischargeability dates. I'm an attorney. I deal in facts, right? What are my facts? What are my options? And then how am I going to play this? Maybe some taxes are going to expire. I have a client right now. If I can get her through June, I'm going to save her a lot of money. The IRS. So then they file these sometimes notice of tax levy or liens, and you have appeal rights, right? Well, certain appeal rights toll the expiration deadlines. Like if you file bankruptcy, it tolls it, right? But if you're filing BK to discharge it, then you wouldn't care. But sometimes someone's filing bankruptcy for a different reason, right? but then they happen to have a tax issue and it's tolling their time on it, right? So there is a what's called an equivalent hearing. Also, there's different kind of appeals. I don't want to make this a legal thing. Some toll events, some don't. So, when I talk to a client and getting facts and responses and following through, what are our next steps? Well, if I file this type of appeal, this is going to toll it. And since you're going to get rid of X dollars in June, and right now it's only a few months away, maybe we don't want to do that. Maybe we want to wait to this deadline and try this, or do this right now. And what's your exposure, right? I having assets that are being attacked, something being levied or seized, So all these components come into play where, I'm basically, I'm a counselor, I'm an attorney and counselor, and the quarterback taking you down the field, you got to read the defense, right? Hopefully make the right throw and not get picked off. But that's part of the representation. Hey, just by the way, I noticed the scroll down there has my name kind of funny.
Let me see.
Got it twice.
Oh, that's I put it on there twice.
Okay.
I put Benjamin. Okay, let me go to, we just got a text in. Is it pronounced Oaklawn or Oakland?
Oaklawn. Oakland's in California, but yeah, Oaklawn.
Okay, Kelly, they want to know, I realize that you charge for your service, which is understandable and I'm sure well worth it. What if I can't pay the IRS though? What do I do?
Can't pay them what? Like how much you owe? A lot of people can't.
Yes.
So there's different kinds of resolution. Okay, so there's the offer and compromise that everyone's pounding the radio on, but you don't automatically qualify for that. Most people don't, but some people do. There's an installment agreement. There's CNC, currently non-collectible, EFTA, effective tax administration. Those are the main ones. Of those, there's sub-programs. Like there's like offer and compromise. Is it a streamlined program, non-streamlined program? How many documents do you have to give? Are you with the revenue officer or not? Because the more complicated it is, the more you got to get approval and show stuff. Or it could be more streamlined where it's like, hey, something that they're not going to ask a lot of questions if you just answer certain things. Installment agreement. Okay, well, there's an installment agreement, but then how many months are you going to get, right? Well, there's also a partial pay installment agreement. Well, what's the difference between a partial pay installment agreement and an offer and compromise? So it's a different formula. So sometimes a partial pay, maybe you don't qualify for an offer and compromise, but I get you on a partial pay installment. Bingo, right? For example, on an offer and compromise, you got equity in properties and stuff like that. You're not going to qualify. I have people calling, I'm an offer and compromise. 2 questions I ask them, and I'm like, no, you don't qualify. Well, someone said, well, first of all, why are you calling me? Someone said, right? But let me guess, it's one of those national guys on the radio that everyone qualifies.
Yes.
You think you're calling that company, but you're really calling a call center in India, and that's why I get your credit card. I'm saying so, but partial pay installment, different formula. Maybe the equity is not counted. So all kinds of things you could do. So that's my job. So that you would know that because the IRS will say, hey, you just here's a link. You can just do your own installment agreement. Well, sure. And everyone who's done that, who's then calling me to redo it, they've all been 100%. What's the IRS going to tell you on their formula? I'm saying, pay me. So also you got to be compliant. So like right now it's like coming up with tax season. I had a couple phone calls even yesterday. One guy owes $90,000. He's going to do his 2025. He thought he was being smart by, hey, that's not due yet. I'm aware of when the tax day is, but if I'm resolving it, file it now because if you owe money, just resolve it. Also, if you get an installment agreement or some other resolution, if you don't stay compliant, they kick you out. Now, just because you file your return in April, if I had you on a deal already, doesn't mean you're compliant. You're compliant with filing, right? But if you don't pay that, you're not compliant. So the money you've paid, they've taken, and now they kick you out. Now you can redo it, of course. But also, if I'm doing offer and compromise, why wouldn't I compromise that too? I mean, it's like, throw the whole thing in there, right? So resolve problems. Okay, the IRS actually wants to resolve the problem. They want money if they can get it, but they don't know. Like this person just asked, "Don't have any money?" Okay, well, maybe you don't, right? But if you don't have money because you gave it all away to your daughter or cousin, I have people call, "Oh, I don't own any property." Well, I look at, that's because you had the property and you give your daughter a quitclaim deed. It's called a dissipation of an asset. Is that going to count, right? She still has it, but on the formula, you have it because you can't give it away and say, don't have it, that's not going to work. So, things like that. So people sometimes get a little too smart for themselves. But when this person was asking the question is, I would talk more to, was it a her, right? That would be about why you don't have it. And if you don't have it, it could be offer and compromise, could be currently non-collectible for right now. There's a temporary issue. Could be effective tax administration where the collection is a hardship to you. You can't afford to eat. They'll back off. But until we show them that, they don't know. The IRS will resolve or settle issues for what they call the reasonable collection potential, RCP. And that's how you negotiate with the IRS. A minute ago, I mentioned I was on a call with a client before I jumped on here. So I was just telling her, I said, she does qualify for current non-collectible based upon the questions she's gave me, right? And I'm probably going to do an offer and compromise, but her intake, like a lot of clients, it's not complete. I've been doing this a long time, right? You have no cash, nothing in checking account. You don't own a piece of furniture. Come on. It's like, oh yeah, maybe I'll redo that. Yeah, maybe we'll redo that. I know she's not making a lot of money, but I got to show the IRS. I can't just show them, no, we got nothing. So, and like I was saying before is, I'll be submitting stuff to the IRS, but when I'm giving you my questionnaire, or I'm asking you my follow-up questions, I'm doing my asset search or, pulling deeds, that's for me to analyze what I think we can get done, which could be more than one option, right? And then then we submit to the IRS, but now I'm on top of the game. I have the facts, right? So I also may know, maybe you qualify for an offer and compromise, but it could be a range, right? So how aggressive am I going to be on discussing the assets or liquidity of certain things, or what counts or what doesn't count? That's how you negotiate with the IRS. Not a magic formula. I'm a lawyer. I give you 10 cents on the dollar, and then you start negotiating. You say, no, I don't have it, because it's a streamlined process of an analysis. So when the numbers say something, they're going to do it. Now, we don't always agree on what the reasonable collection potential is. And that's where you're negotiating or doing an appeal or going over their head or, going to tax court. I belong to the U.S. tax court. A lot of people don't. So I could do that as well. So that's how you play that game. But like I'm not stupid either. I have a client who owes lots, $600,000 and $700,000.
Whoa!
I'm doing the analysis, and we're talking, and they're getting lien letters stuff. And I'm like, okay, I want to resolve this, but I did the intake, the questionnaires, documents, but I know she has two pieces of property. And I'm doing my analysis. I'm like, wait, how does she qualify for this? So I look at the questionnaire. Because she didn't mention things that I know, right? Like you own two pieces of property with equity. So when I put that back in the calculation, okay, that makes more sense because you don't qualify for non-criminal collectible. You got like $700,000 or $900,000 in equity. You know what I'm saying? And they got so much equity that it's going to be an issue on an installment agreement because it's so much above what they owe that they may want to cash it out. But then again, can she get the equity out? Because the credit. So there's different ways to play the game. But help me help you. I'm your attorney. Tell me stuff. And she wasn't being flippant, I guess. But I'm like, when she first hired me, that was the issue. So I knew what the issue was. I know you own the properties. So you just forgot to put it on the intake or just got lazy This is not kindergarten or junior high school where, I'm sorry, I didn't know that. I wasn't supposed to do that. Come on, this is, it's just a negotiation. It's not criminal. Sometimes there's criminal stuff with the IRS. Most people aren't, right? It's a reasonable collection potential. It's a negotiation. They want to resolve it. They want you back in the tax system, right?
Yes.
That's why, the collection period is usually 10 years from assessments, but there's totaling events and different things. That's the general rule. Sometimes people haven't filed for a long time. You can file 6 years of stuff, not even the 10, and they're just happy to get you back in there and, resolving that kind of stuff. Back in the tax system, resolving what you owe, full pay, no pay, partial pay, whatever, but now have a compliant taxpayer moving forward who's paying taxes to the government. So even though the IRS is not always your friend, or it's the government and they're slow and they're archaic, it's not always so terrible. You know what I'm saying? They will resolve things, but you should go through someone like myself to do it, because you don't want to cause a problem for yourself,
Right.
But they want to work it out. It's not a matter of saying nope, because you can't get blood out of a stone. I had people the same question that someone asked, the general question, I can't afford it. I had someone one time, what was it, 1, 2, 3 million? I go, wow, must have been doing really well before, right? Or not doing well now. How could I pay that? Well, you're not. That's the point, right? I mean, show me what happened and show me that, you don't have, and they'll either, resolve it cheaply. I mean, sometimes, there's cases that get settled. People owe all this money and they get settled for $100, $500. Now, before someone starts calling me and say, yeah, I want that deal, I'm not saying you're getting that deal, okay? But that happens because you go through the process of the reasonable collection potential. You qualify for an offer of compromise or you don't. If you do, and if that's the number, they will actually take it, but you got to show why, not giving things away, not just forgetting to put things on the asset things and stuff like that. So you don't have to always pay it. That's the point. A lot of people are, self-employed, or they tried a business, they're making big money. Now they weren't. Now they're doing something else. So the liability came from something else, but now you're, making X, and how are you going to pay that, right? So also there's people get in trouble with what they call the trust fund recovery, right? They got a small business or bigger business. Payroll taxes come out of your paycheck. They're supposed to give to the government, but they don't. So they borrow it, and it kind of snowballs. And people think, well, it's a company. No, because you're the responsible person. There's a responsible person with the company, even if they're out of business. So then they come after you, and that gets a little more intense. I just got hired last week on one. Someone's going after people's family members, and it's a lot of money. And I know what happened on the case, and but the person knows. It's like, okay, he got screwed by a certain person, but they're going to take care of it, but they don't want trouble. You know what I'm saying? So they go through me.
Oh, you're going to love this one. This is from Chris in St. Louis. Your show is the only podcast I sit and listen to the entire show. I love your stories. My problem is my husband procrastinates, and he's doing it with the IRS. What can I say to him to get him to pick up the phone and call you?
The one you don't want to procrastinate with is the IRS.
Yes.
Okay. The IRS, which is the biggest, most powerful collection thing in the country, that has every tool possible to come after you. And, oh, by the way, if there's a new tool they need, then it's the government. Go to Congress. Now they got that tool too. And they're exempt from this and exempt from that. That's the one people you don't want to owe money to. Then you have your penalties, which, by the way, sometimes you qualify for penalty abatement, sometimes you don't. But you have your failure to file penalties. You have your failure to pay penalties. Boom, boom, boom. People come, well, they say, 80 grand. It's only 10 grand. It was 10 grand. and then if you wait a few more months, it's going to be 100 grand.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's not going down, right? You know what I'm saying? So, but the good news is, I mean, if you qualify for offer and compromise, you compromise the whole thing. Otherwise, sometimes you can get penalties abated. There's different ways. Everything's a qualification. Okay, everything's a formula, sort of streamlined or not streamlined. It's a process. Just like bankruptcy or other stuff, there's qualifications and the code and rules, and that's how people analyze things. I used to do it back in the foreclosure, boom, right? A lot of short sales would happen, right?
Yes, I remember those days.
People would be like, "Oh, you're trying to negotiate a short sale," but yeah, but you negotiate the same way I do tax, whatever. You have to submit things to the bank and show them, and there's valuations, and if you're within X percent of the valuation, depending on what kind of loan you are, they have to take it, and they will, right? So so when you're negotiating a short sale, it's not a magic, hey, I'm going to file bankruptcy if I don't do it. They don't care. Submit your stuff, and you talk about the values and what the offer is, because a lot of times people are like, especially back then, oh, it's a foreclosure, so they're sort of like try to lowball you. They're going to get a deal. Okay, well, you're not going to get a deal when someone's really lowballing you, because the bank's not going to take it, because they're not going to have to. They're not going to do it, right? It's got to be. It could be a deal, but not like free. People go to seminars and, hey, here's what you do. It's not how you do it, right? So it's crazy what people think, but that's what people think they do. Just make up numbers. Everyone's going to get a deal, and it's not the case.
Brad in Kansas City wants to know, what is the difference in an enrolled agent versus you as an attorney?
Okay, so to represent individuals who aren't your family members, and before the IRS, you have to be an attorney, a CPA, or an enrolled agent. So an enrolled agent is someone who's not you can't be a CPA or attorney and be an enrolled agent. But let's say you're not a CPA, you're not an attorney, but you qualify to be an enrolled agent. There's IRS, it's like maybe like 9 months to a year to do it. There's classes, it's like not a degree, but it's a designation. So you pass 3 different tests for the IRS, and there are 3 different sections. So you can study from one section at a time. That's why it takes, a little while to do it, because it's a real thing. It's not like you go to a seminar over a weekend and you take a test and you're qualified, because then you're trained, kind of like with the IRS rules and manual. The IRS just wants a professional who knows what they're doing so they can get it done. You know what I'm saying? They don't want anybody always doing these things. So if you're not a CPA or attorney or an attorney, you could actually do that and wind up representing people as good as anybody else, except you can't.
They can't go to court though and represent you.
What?
They can't go to court.
That's what I was saying. Other than someone like myself, you can't go to U.S. tax court, U.S. district court. You can't do bankruptcies. So, but you could be as good as anybody else doing the regular, resolutions and stuff like that. Because I mean, some people maybe they're even a bookkeeper. They've been doing it for a long time. They study for an EA, and they're qualified. They know what they're doing. The tax court thing, you got to be a lawyer. There is a way if you're not a lawyer to do it. It's more difficult because you're not a lawyer. So you got to qualify and pass the different stuff. So there is a way to do it, but most people, I've been in the tax court since like 1990. Don't have a lot of stuff in there, but
I'd rather have an attorney like you.
Right. And sometimes it's U.S. district court, because it's not always, a tax court thing. It's to be a problem when the government's suing you, for things. So, and I'm a federal lawyer. I mean, I'm a state lawyer too, but I do mostly federal stuff.
Craig in Naperville, can your firm get the IRS to remove penalties and interest that I owe in taxes?
Well, that's what I was talking about before. There's a possible penalty abatement. Okay, so can I do it? maybe. I mean, the answer is yes if you qualify, right? It's not a matter of magically just like doing that, right? So we can analyze that. Even if you're in Naperville, it still works for there. And so yes, it is possible. So when I said before, the resolutions were like basically offer compromise, installment agreement, currently non-collectible, effective tax administration, and some of the subdivision ones of those. There's also, penalty abatement sometimes. But again, if you're qualifying for an offer and compromise and you're compromising the whole thing, then it's done. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, yeah, you want penalty abatement. Sometimes, depending on someone's situation, maybe if you get the penalty abated, they can just pay the tax. You know what I'm saying? So if you qualify for that, that's a way to take care of business as far as that goes. Otherwise, if you're doing an installment agreement, if you can get some penalties abated to lower the amount, yeah. But it's not automatic. I don't want to have them thinking it's like, hey, just call me and you automatically get penalty abatement. Give me a call and let's discuss it. The consultation's free.
And by the way, everybody who emails us, texts us, they're all getting Kevin's contact information. Ralph and Joliet wants to know, how much of my wages can be garnished?
Well, someone garnishing you now? So it's usually about 15% of your net. I mean, there's a formula because there's a certain amount they can't take. So, without, give me a call. I mean, give me a call. Because also there's exemptions. So depending on the situation, you could actually defend that. I'm not saying, call me to start doing it. But, there's a minimum amount they can't take, right? Then over and above them, there's a certain amount, right? Then there's also, can you exempt something, or is it causing you, there's different ways to defend that. But who's talking about the IRS garnishing you or some creditor?
It just says, how much of my wages can the IRS garnish?
I'm not talking about doing a bankruptcy or doing a resolution, because if they're garnishing you, you want to resolve the issue, right?
Right.
So, but I had it like, we do like Chapter 13, which is like kind of like a court-ordered bill consolidation, and we stop a lot of stuff. But I've had cases where it's like, someone's owed so much, and only really one creditor can garnish you at a time. And I've had people come in, not a lot, over the years, but it's happened, where I say, something, you're better off letting them garnish you than me doing it's a lower payment. And then, it takes you, and the payment's sometimes so small, it could be 10 years with the garnishing, but every other creditor can't. So you got a 100-year repayment plan, where I gonna get you 5 years. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it's better off. But if you're being garnished, you need to do something.
I want people to also know that Kevin also does bankruptcy. We're talking tax resolution today because we've got so many questions. This is a good question. This is from John in Chicago. He said, my friends keep telling me that because my business owes the IRS money, that they could take my business away. If the IRS takes my business away, how could I ever pay them?
Stop talking to your friends.
Yeah. Okay.
Get new friends. What are they talking about? Your business could be shut down. Maybe like the Illinois Department of Revenue. You ain't paying your taxes. You're out of business. Or liquor licenses you can't get renewed. So in that respect, maybe shut. Even in bankruptcy, they're not doing that.
Okay. This is Jonathan, also in Chicago, wants to know, what is tax forgiveness?
Scam. So
Okay.
you do is you get in the car, you put on the radio, and you hear about the tax forgiveness program, the Start Fresh program.
Yes.
People don't want you to get. There's no. The Start Fresh thing is many years ago. All they did was that they changed the offer and compromise formula in months you could do things. So it Start Fresh. But there's no program where it's like, hey, the IRS has come out with the Start Fresh program, and everything gets wiped out. No, that's just a radio pitch or TV ad maybe you saw on that. It's misleading, is what it is. Okay, of course it's anybody can get a fresh start. You filed Chapter 7, it's a fresh start. You know what I'm saying? But that's really more of a gimmick people try to use. The same on the radio. You hear these. Call us now. There's, if you got 10,000 more in credit card debt, there's secrets the banks don't want you to know about. We got a program that it all goes away. No, it doesn't work like that.
So, Kevin, when somebody calls you,
mm-hmm.
Who do they get?
Well, eventually they're going to get me. So, I mean, someone's going to answer the phone.
No, I'm going to tell you why. Because we got a lot of people who said that these big advertisements for these companies, that they talk to an intake person.
Yeah. And they're probably in a different country. So,
yeah, right. That's true.
They have sales teams, right? So there's and always be someone else different, and they have the turnover rate is high, and they talk about their team of CPAs and attorneys and EAs. They got a whole team of people. My God, the best company in the world. And they got 100 guys ready to take on the IRS. No, they don't. They have people they affiliate with, to try to make them think it's part of them, but they're not. They're not paying a team of people on salary to start taking people's, so it's trying to help you, right? And I love the ones on a commercial like, we don't take everybody. Yeah, they do. That's why they're scammers. You know what I'm saying? So,
yes.
They're trying to make it look like they're doing you a favor. They're not. You're not qualifying for things, and no one's resolving your things because they're so busy doing the radio ads and then trying to get people more money, and then the expenses come up that they're just, spinning wheels. Does anything ever get resolved? Maybe, but not a whole lot. I can't tell you how many people complain about that. Those are just marketing people on there. It's really terrible. Because all they do is when they go out of business, they just change their name and they're back in business. So it's all people with they pull some money together. It's just sales, right? They're just selling. So yeah, you got an intake person. What's that? Right? Who are you talking to? How do they know the intake person knows what you could do? Nothing, right? So then who's resolving the issue? Who's qualifying you? Who says you qualify for an offer and compromise? Oh, hang on. Good news. I just got the word. You qualified. Oh, got the word. No, you didn't. You're talking to me. That's who you're going to talk to. And I'm going to qualify you or not. And but then again, sometimes, just like in bankruptcy, hey, you don't qualify, but you know something? In 2 months you can. Or if I do this, I'm going to qualify you. It's pre-bankruptcy filing, perfectly legit. Exemption planning, perfectly legitimate. Hiding things, no. Trying to screw over creditors, no. But there's ways to do things, right? And in IRS, the same thing. Like I said before, when I analyze each tax year for the assessment expiration deadline and the collection expiration deadlines and the bankruptcy discharge deadlines, let's get the facts because I want to know where we're going. Are we going to slow ball this and try to run the clock out somewhat, maybe on these 2 years, So then when I finally get the resolution in, those are gone, So it's a whole strategy, legal, you know what I'm saying? But that's why you have a professional. Again, someone calls, hey, I owe 200 grand, because to you, yeah, I owe 200 grand, right? But to me, it's like, okay, you owe 200 grand, but what tax year or what options we have on each thing, and it's a whole analysis. And it takes time to do. That's why you pay for it. So,
Larry, this is our last question. Larry in Evanston, he said, I really appreciate your honesty. I hope this isn't a stupid question.
It's not.
If I'm in IRS collection or if I'm being garnished, does that hurt my credit or show up on my credit?
Well, being in IRS collections isn't going to hurt your credit, but when they file the tax lien, that would be on your credit. But just get it resolved, you know. And by the way, if there's a tax lien filed, they can be released. There's ways to negotiate that as well. So, or subordinate. You know, sometimes people are like, hey, you know, I have equity, I can't pay him because they got a lien on it. Yeah, sure, because I call the IRS, they'll subordinate that, and you know, even if like people are like, oh, I can't do it because there's not enough equity to pay the IRS. That's okay. So they will subordinate, take what they, as long as the money's going to them. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And then they put the lien back on, but now your tax thing, it's less, and we do a resolution, right? Or you know, we can negotiate sometimes different reasons to get the tax lien off, stuff like that. So there's no, actually, I don't think they don't put, that's on your credit report, the tax lien. They record it with the recorder of deeds. So it becomes a lien. A credit reporting agency can't pick that up because it's a public record. But you know, they're not like, you know, reporting directly.
Kevin, I got to tell you, by the letters we get, people really appreciate your honesty, and they just feel from the letters that you so understand this business. And like one guy said, I heard another show on taxes, and the guy was so boring. He said, you're never boring at all, Kevin. Kevin, tell people how they can reach you.
Well, 312-853-3100. Otherwise, nobletaxrelief.com, benjaminlaw.com. You guys go on the website, basically. It probably has all the contact information on there.
Yes.
How to, you can schedule like through my Calendly link, which is on the webpage, or just call me, 312-853-3100. But you're probably better off going on the webpage, benjaminlaw.com or nobletaxrelief.com. You can put your name in there, and I'll have your contact information. We could, you know, go from there instead of playing phone tag, because if you call directly, I'm not always available that second. But we schedule calls and meetings and stuff like that.
Kevin's with us every month. Kevin, we so appreciate you, and we'll see you next month.
Thanks. Look forward to it.
Attorney Kevin Benjamin. Folks, give him a call. I'm telling you, if you've got a tax problem, I'm telling you, don't try to handle it yourself. Give Kevin a call, 312-853-3100. Hey, that's going to do it for us today. We'll be back again with you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.